What types of cloud native applications run on IBM Cloud, and can you share some lessons?
Absolutely. So our key applications, we have very large rental car companies, very large airlines that use our IBM Cloud. And then the big one that we can really use to test it is the weather company. So the weather company on a given day will have 30 billion unique users hit its information for weather forecasting. It provides weather forecasting all over the world. And when there's a storm like a hurricane imminent, that will ramp up from 30 billion to 100 billion unique users every day using that information. And the system is responsible for 250 billion individual forecasts for like a 2-kilometer grid across the world. So when you have those types of applications running on IBM Cloud, scalability is huge. So we have scalability, security, and DevOps we found are critical, and that's how we've battle tested our cloud through those key applications.
And so looking at the kind of the whole ecosystem, how do you see cloud native, or which cloud native technologies, I guess, do you see coming together to provide the most benefit?
Yes. So the key technologies that we see coming together would be Kubernetes, Istio, and Knative. If you put those three cloud-native technologies together, what we're seeing is they actually provide a platform for people to build their cloud-native applications on, very analogous to how we used to have the WebSphere platform, say 8 to 10 years ago. So they come together and they help to build a framework where people can build wonderful cloud-native applications that scale.
You recently announced a new open source project called Carbonaro. Can you talk a little bit about how that fits into the current tool ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. So Carbonaro comes from the idea that we have a lot of, say, J2EE application developers, Java application developers that were used to having certain frameworks and only having to worry about their code. And we now want them to be able to migrate over and build cloud-native applications. But there's still a lot of complexity as you start and do cloud-native applications. So there's complexity with the networking, complexity with the security. The goal of Carbonaro is to be able to give an on-ramp to those types of application developers to start building cloud-native applications very, very quickly, providing them a platform that makes it much easier. It also provides certain application stacks. So if some of your application developers are Node, or some of your application developers are WebSphere Liberty, the Carbonaro project provides those specific stacks the lead architect can provide to the developers. And again, with this whole goal of accelerating the development of applications by those developers who are now moving to cloud native.
And so when you're talking to, say, a CTO, can you share your approach in how you communicate the benefits of cloud native?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when we talk to a CTO, one of my favorite approaches is to start and talk about what are called 12-factor apps. 12-factor apps is a well-known standard way to build applications that will run on the cloud that are scalable and robust. And with 12-factor apps, you have basic principles that say, have different steps for build and deploy. So, for example, you don't go out and patch the images, because if you go patch the images, you'll lose what happened. So you get good rules about putting everything in a source code repository, making things scalable, having multiple copies, and being resilient to failures. And so after you give that wonderful explanation of how important 12-factor apps are, you can then look at talking to the CTO and showing them the capabilities of Kubernetes and in addition our products, and how they make it incredibly easy based on the capabilities of Kubernetes and what we also provide to essentially build what are 12-factor apps.
And so to close on a more personal note, you've written a couple of books, one on OpenStack and one on Kubernetes. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and what you learned from writing those books?
Yes. So yeah, I've had the pleasure of working with O'Reilly on 2 different books, and they've been wonderful experiences. I think what people need to understand is you don't get half a year to write a book. You get about 6 to 8 weeks. And so in doing it twice, I always recommend that people pick some co-authors that have different strengths than theirs. So maybe me personally, I'm a really strong writer, but maybe I knew somebody who really knew IBM Public Cloud, and maybe I knew somebody who really knew IBM Private Cloud. And you can get a really good result by not trying to pick people who are just like you, but actually people who are in many ways different and different strengths. And the other thing I recommend to people is, even if you're not the best writer, companies like O'Reilly, they have wonderful editors who are going to fix a lot of stuff. So the first thing is, don't be scared if you feel like you're not the best writer. That'll all get fixed later. What's important is worrying about being able to talk about the technology in a way that's very easy to understand. Work hard to motivate what you're trying to explain to your reader. And if you can do that, and you can do it quickly, it gets a little bit stressful in those 6 to 8 week periods, but it really is rewarding to write books and be able to share your knowledge in that fashion.
Thank you very much for talking with me today.
Thank you.